Update. Am I the a-hole for not moving out of my apartment so my brother can have it? Original post. I, female 23, have an older brother 32. I moved out of my parents' house earlier than him and found a small place for myself that is really close to my job. The place is not the biggest. It's a one-bedroom apartment, but it is enough for one person, and rent is very cheap, so I'm extremely happy with it. I put a lot of work into it and made sure it's my little happy space. Recently, my brother started staying over now and then. I don't have a problem with that. He works the night shift, and my place is also closer to his job than my parents' house. The problem began when he started bringing more and more of his stuff to my place. He brought his PS4, started gaming in my living room, and is overall just being a terribly inconsiderate guest, and treats me like our mom. I brought this up with my parents, and my dad suggested that I should let my brother live there and get myself a new apartment. He said I should look for a bigger place, because my brother makes less money, and he could afford my place, and I could just find something better. But I don't want a bigger apartment. I have no plans to have a family or partner where I would need anything more than one bedroom. And I put so much work into personalizing my apartment that this feels so unfair. My parents said I'd be an a-hole for both kicking my brother out now for staying over and not giving him the place. Is that true? Edit with some additional info. My brother does not pay rent to me. He used to stay here for only a couple of days, but it's been turning into weeks. I did contact my landlord as of today. She hasn't responded yet, but she's nice, so I hope she'll understand my situation. Also, additional info, I didn't know my parents or my dad would react like this. I thought he'd help me talk to him as we don't have a bad relationship. I'm trying to figure out why he thinks my brother should have my apartment too, but my dad hasn't been responsive since that conversation. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Please do not let your family bully you into giving up the thing you worked hard for. Your brother is a grown man, 32 years old, and can definitely find another place if he needs to, and can't be a considerate guest. That is your space, and you need to put your foot down and have a strong backbone, because clearly your parents are going to side with him once you make it clear you aren't giving him the place. Also, why would you need something bigger? What you have works for you. Again, don't let anyone bully you or manipulate you. He's 30. Let that man figure his own stuff out. He isn't your responsibility. If you need him out, kick his butt out. Not the a-hole. Opie, it is your place. Don't let him belittle your feelings. Tell them if they are so worried for dear helpless brother, then they should help him pay rent to an apartment of his own. Easy as that. Opie should bring all her brother's belongings to her parents' house. Then change the lock if he has a key and let them deal with it. If they're so worried about their struggling son, they can deal with him. I can't decide if your brother has always been your parents' favorite or if they are just so desperate to get a 32-year-old man out of their house that they are willing to screw you over in the process. Either way, not the a-hole and get that parasite out of your happy place ASAP. Came here to say the same. It seems like Opie's parents have a favorite child and Opie is used to accommodating her brother. I'm sure their parents are just desperate to get him out permanently, now that they've had a whiff of freedom. He's probably just happy taking over his sister's home without actually having to pay for it or being responsible. I suggest Opie changes the internet password. That seems to work on many teens. Yikes. Kick him out with his stuff and change locks. Move him before he can claim tenant rights or squatter rights or whatever. Hurry. Not the a-hole. Your brother is a grade A mooch. Agreed. Change the locks ASAP. And tell him in writing he can't stay over anymore and he needs to come get his stuff by X date. Opie, it sounds like you've been realized to think your brother's needs should come before your own. I'm telling you, your parents' request is so weird that it's almost laughable, and you should confidently ignore it and focus on improving your own life. Your brother is a grown man and is trying to take your apartment rather than find his own. Step 1. You can't stay here anymore. It breaks the lease. Step 2. When he leaves for the night shift, have the place rekeyed. Drop off his stuff with mom and dad. Step 3. Text brother, I dropped your stuff at mom and dad's. It was fun having you hang out here. Too bad about the lease. I'll let the landlord know you're interested in the place if they get an opening. Now for the update. First, I want to say thank you for all the encouragement in the comments of my last post. It took me longer to deal with this than I expected, but finally, I think I found a solution. Several people asked for an update, so here it is. So I attempted to talk to my father again, but at this point, I am assuming that a lot of the comments were right about them just wanting me to deal with my brother in their place. I took time off my work schedule to pack his things together and waited for him to crash here after work again, since I still needed a key back. Looking back, probably not the best move, but I was stressed and tired. It was an awful fight, but it did end with him eventually leaving my apartment and returning my keys. The reason I didn't get the locks changed is because my landlord reminded me that this could be very expensive and she wouldn't cover the cost for me. It's been several days, and my brother has not contacted me since, nor attempted to enter my apartment. I am still considering changing the locks and might do so soon with my landlord's permission and covering the cost myself, but it seems I have my space back. The thing that really bothers me is how my relationship with my parents suddenly suffered so much from this. My initial reaction when I asked them to help me throw out my brother and my dad responding with the apartment switch was that they couldn't be serious. Apparently they were. My mom did talk to me this week and said since I am on good terms with my landlord, I could figure something out. It's completely ridiculous and almost comically evil at this point. I told her that's not how renting a space works. I don't even know if this is pure entitlement or ego. Doesn't matter though, I decided to lower contact with them over this until they find out what they did wrong. Regardless if they do or don't, my family are not the main characters of my life, and I am done with being a doormat to them. It took some encouragement to stand up for myself, and I want to thank everyone who gave it to me. You handled this just right. I would at least find out what changing the lock or rekeying it would cost. You can usually just change parts of it, and it's fairly easy to do it yourself. It's a valuable life skill. I took my own lock from home to home for a few years. Also, it may be cheaper to just have the lock rekeyed. Thank you. That's exactly the word I was looking for. You just change the barrel or some such component. Cheap and easy. You do know you can change your locks yourself, right? You need a new locks, a screwdriver, and the ability to read and follow basic instructions. A power drill would be helpful, but it's not necessary. Well, it's a rental. I can't just change the locks without asking my landlord. I did it as a 20-something by myself, and it was pretty easy. Just ask your landlord if you can have the locks changed. He doesn't need to know you're the one doing it. You'll still have to buy the lock, but it's a lot better than hiring someone to do it. Then I'll ask again and tell her I'll cover the cost and look into doing it myself. Thanks for the tip. Here's what I would do, because I believe that for the sake of sanity and peace, and not being demonized for something that is an egregious ask, this is a situation that calls for a little white lie. I would say that I spoke with my landlord, and I would tell your landlord beforehand so she can back you up, and she said no, that she will be the person to choose all future tenants, and furthermore, that is not my place to simply decide who gets to live there next. That if I give up my apartment, she already has people in mind with whom she has developed a rapport and is confident that she'd enjoy them as tenants. And if I were a landlord, I would absolutely feel this way. I would definitely not allow a tenant to decide who the next tenant is going to be. And I'd be suspicious that they even suggested usurping my power. Your parents offloaded their son onto you and made it your problem, so turnabout is fair play. It's not a malicious lie. It is merely a small lie to ward off what is an exceedingly unfair demand of you and your home. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents that if their third partner moves in, I'm living with my grandparents? So my 16 female parents recently made a new friend, 27 female, who it turns out is more than a friend. The way they explained it to me is that she's their third partner. I guess it's some poly thing. I don't know. I don't follow that stuff. I guess they're still married and all that, but she's more like a secondary partner. The last few months were weird, but I was managing. They'd warned me in advance if she was coming over or if they were going to her place. I could handle that, but what was awkward is that in the mornings after, she's usually still there. It's a little freaky getting ready for school and making small talk when you know why they're here. Her visits were getting more and more common, and my parents wanted to have a talk with me that she's moving in. The spare room will be her room, and they'll all live together as a throuple. I don't think I can handle that. It's just too weird, especially since she's closer to my age than theirs. Now, she's friendly enough, but it's still weird, like she's halfway between family friend and stepmom. It's not any one thing really, it's just that the whole situation is just too much too fast for me. My grandparents live nearby, and I'm always welcome to stay there. So I told my parents I'm just gonna live with them at least until I finish school. They did not take it well. They think I hate them, and I'm not being open-minded. I explained I still love them and I want to live with them, but on top of being uncomfortable, I don't want to explain to my friends who the young woman who lives in our spare room is. Plus, I admit it really does gross me out when I see this woman being affectionate with my parents. They never do anything inappropriate in front of me, but still. They said I was being bigoted and that they were disappointed in me, but let me go and said my room will be waiting for me. Now I feel awful and wonder if maybe I should have just kept my head down until college. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It's asking a lot of a 16-year-old to live in the middle of a throuple. Most teenagers don't want to know anything about their parents' intimate lives, so having breakfast with their overnight guest is really a stretch. Move in with your grandparents, relax and focus on high school and don't feel guilty about it. I'm a former swinger/poly person. I cannot imagine putting my child in this kind of a situation. 2 years isn't long to wait. My partner's parents were swingers when he was a kid/teen, and the kids were scarred by it, permanently. Hard not the a-hole. Sorry that your parents want an F-buddy more than for you to be comfortable in your family home. Not the a-hole. The least they could do is allow you to move out peacefully instead of guilt trip you and call you hateful. Holy midlife crisis, Batman. I cannot agree more. This child wants and needs a family, but parents want an F-buddy. Idiots that want to celebrate this throuple fail to recognize that their new made-up word highlights a relationship shared by 3 people, and not the child. Nobody cares about your kinks, and those expecting a kid to just roll out the welcome wagon for some needy 20-some-year-old because others here need to defend their own choices are freaking selfish. Opie deserves her parents' love, attention, and resources. Poly is fine, but kids shouldn't be dragged into it. Don't bring strangers into your kid's life. Not the a-hole. Amazing how so many people who claim to be open-minded are so close-minded when others don't agree with them. If the 27 female moves in, it's going to get weirder real quick. The grandparents seem like a really good option. People are always open-minded, unless you don't validate their beliefs/lifestyles. And when I say validate, means approved, promote, and live that lifestyle too. It's like people calls you all kinds of phobic when you say you're not attracted to them. Last story. Am I the a-hole for living with my mother full-time since I'll have to share a room with my half-brother when he's born? I, 16 female, mostly live with my mom. I do every other weekend with my dad and his wife, who's pregnant with my half-brother and is due in 3 months. The issue is that my dad's place only has 2 bedrooms, so I'll have to share my room with a baby whenever I go over there. So I told my dad when they announced she was pregnant that I'm not sharing my room, especially with a baby. Last weekend was my last visit. I did that so they'll be free to get ready for the baby, which I thought they'd appreciate. I'll go over again if they happen to move somewhere with an extra room, but I'll probably be 18 before that happens. Like I said, I figured Dad would appreciate me giving him time to get ready, but instead, he's been nuts. Not only is he not talking to me, he's also saying until I grow up, I won't get to meet my brother when he's born. Not that I was looking forward to that anyway, and that he's going to have the judge make me come. Now that's not gonna work. Where I live, at my age, judges don't usually care, so I'm not worried about that. Still, he said I'm being really immature, and I need to grow up and come over again. I already told him I'm not, but now he's been calling my mom and bothering her. Not the a-hole. The baby should be in the parents' bedroom for the first 6 months to a year. There is no reason you should share a bedroom with an infant. Actually, there is a reason she needs to share a room with a baby. Who else is going to get up with a baby in the middle of the night? There's the truth of it. He wants free babysitting when she's there so he can sleep in. Not the a-hole. They're trying to make you raise their child. Run away. And dad also doesn't want to pay ex-wife more child support because he'll have to if OP's there full-time. Ding ding ding! Winner! I can almost guarantee that's the main reason behind dad's objections. If OP lives with mom full-time, he has to pay more child support. If they share parenting time, this support is reduced. Aside from that, OP is not the a-hole. She's 16 and deserves to have her own space, even if not living with dad full-time. She needs privacy and not to have to deal with a baby waking up all night long, the smell of loaded diapers in her sleeping space, etc. Trying to be fair, maybe this baby wasn't planned, and moving to a larger place is not financially possible for dad right now, but he needs to understand where OP is coming from as well. Not the a-hole. I think your father was counting on having your forced help to make his weekends go easier. Also, he may be worried that he may have to pay additional child support if you live full-time with your mom. Either way, threatening you about withholding affection and access, both parental and sibling, is an absolute a-hole move on your dad's part. And then calling your mother to badger her is the crappy cherry on top. Don't feel bad, OP. Teens need sleep and privacy. Your dad is being the jerk here. Lol, dad can take it in front of a judge to try to force weekend visits. But what judge is going to hear, "I want to force my 16-year-old to stay weekends and share a room with a newborn," and think, "That's a great idea and so appropriate"? The judge is going to look at your dad like a moron. The fact that he is straight up giving you the silent treatment and threatening to withhold your relationship with your new half-siblings, even if you don't want it, proves the man isn't mature enough to have 2 kids, let alone 1. Not the a-hole. Have fun at your mom's without the 2 a.m. wake-ups. Am I the a-hole for calling my ex a deadbeat in front of his family? I, 41 female, have a daughter, Sam, 14 female, with my ex-husband, Brian, 44 male. We divorced when she was 4, and Brian made a real effort to be a good father for the first couple of years after that. But then pretty much overnight, he seemed to lose interest in her. He stopped coming to parent-teacher nights, never came to any first sport games, and stopped asking about them. Refused to pay child support, which I eventually stopped asking for as I have a well-paying job. Would forget to pick Sam up on days he said he would, and stop asking to see her at holidays. On the rare occasions he remembered to pick her up, he would try and smooth everything over by buying her expensive gifts. And it's worked for a really long time, but it started to wear off now and Sam is starting to see through it. Sam has maintained a very close relationship with her paternal grandparents. Sam is a very accomplished field hockey player and represented our country internationally recently, and is likely that she will be on the World Championship team later this year. We returned 2 days ago, and yesterday, her grandparents wanted to take her and the rest of the family to lunch to celebrate. Brian showed up 45 minutes late, didn't even apologize. His parents were surprised and told him to behave. Then as Sam was recounting her time and summaries of the matches to her grandparents, Brian interjected and belittled her performance because she only scored 1 goal. Sam burst into tears and ran to the bathroom. I comforted her and she asked if we could go home. I agreed and told her to wait in the car while I got our stuff. When I returned to the table, Brian was defending himself against his parents, and I just snapped. I told him he was a deadbeat and recounted all of the things mentioned above, and that I wouldn't be surprised if Sam cuts him loose one day. That our daughter is wonderful and does not deserve to be treated like this. His parents seemed shocked, as he clearly had given them the impression he is a good father. Then he threw a tantrum and stormed out. I apologized and left money for half the check with his parents. Since then, Brian sent me several messages, and his parents texted to say they don't appreciate the scene I caused in the restaurant. I don't think I did anything wrong, but my parents agree with them. So maybe I did? Am I the a-hole? You shouldn't have made a scene in the restaurant because they shouldn't have created a situation. So much not the a-hole. Also, OP, go for the child support. Remember, it's not for you, it's for Sam. That's money that can help her someday. If you/she don't need it now, put it in savings for later. This, get the child support. If you don't need it, put it in an account for college, a car, a down payment for her first house. It's your/her right to have that money. It's the least he should do. After that BS he pulled, OP should go for as much child support as she can. And when he doesn't pay, let his butt go to jail. Let mommy and daddy see how great a father their angel is. Not the a-hole. Brian is a big-time a-hole here. Take him to court for child support. and then let Sam use that money however she wants to seek out the fullest life possible, like to help with her dream college, to spend on great travel experiences, etc. She deserves to benefit somehow from her farce of a father, and so do you, for showing up and being a good/loving parent to her. I plan on not claiming, since I am lucky enough to have a well enough paying job that I can support us. I plan to tell her that before she turns 18, that between 18 to 25, she will then be able to claim all backdated child support, which will be about 12 years, I think, and it will be paid to her directly for her to use as she wishes. I don't think it's fair to let your 18-year-old kid go through the legal proceedings of getting backdated child support because he can't be bothered. You could easily fight to get the backdated child support and to get your ex to give the child support every month, but put all of that money in an account in your name until your kid turns 18 and give her access to it. Not the a-hole. You defended your child. Full stop. I'd respond to the parents and tell them you don't appreciate him belittling your child over a match he didn't even see, nor do you appreciate the fact he never sees any and is never there. So before they want to continue coming at you for making a scene, maybe they should stop and reflect on why the scene was necessary. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ruining my dad's chances of winning my mom back? My 25 female parents are getting divorced after 24 years of marriage. My mother was basically cheating on my father for months before I found out. I put cheating in quotation marks because my dad was a horrible husband, so I was actually happy she found someone else. Once mom said she wanted to separate, my dad completely changed. He said he didn't want her to leave, begging her to stay, saying he will change. He actually got on medication for his depression, started being more affectionate, and asked for couples counseling that he said my mom agreed to do. One day I go to my parents' house, and my dad says he wants my help winning my mom back. We are in the backyard and mom is in the house. I told him no, because I want what's best for her and he's not it. He said that he has severe depression, and saying that is bad, without acknowledging how depression can affect a person, isn't right. He said he was disappointed, because if the genders were reversed, I would admonish him for cheating and breaking the vow of marriage. Now, this is where I might be the a-hole. My dad is doing everything he can to win my mom back. So I said that while I won't help him, I wouldn't interfere in his plans, and would stop talking about him with her, as me and my mom talk a lot about how horrible of a husband my dad is. At one point in the conversation, he says in a calm tone, I know you're not going to like this, but I'ma say it anyway. When one parent gives you gifts and takes you on trips and buys you things, of course you're going to side with them, even if they're wrong, because you don't want to lose that. This made me so angry. I have a genuine friendship with my mom, whereas even though my dad was a fantastic father, stay-at-home dad, gave us everything we ever wanted/needed, I don't necessarily enjoy being around him. I hang out with him sometimes out of obligation, but it's very forced, and I know he can tell, and he's told me this hurts him in the past. I basically went off saying screw you, and how dare you, and that he had no right to question my character. And the reason I like my mom is because he's no fun, unmedicated, he's rude and rigid, and it has absolutely nothing to do with money. I am screaming, but up until this point, our convo was calm, and we were almost whispering so mom wouldn't hear. My dad keeps trying to shush me, but I don't let up. I go to my mom and tell her what he just said, and he keeps looking at me saying, why are you doing this to me? I can't believe you're doing this to me. We were just having a calm conversation. Then I say I'm leaving, and my mom gets in the car with me. Later, my dad says that after my blow up, my mom no longer wanted to go to couples therapy. Am I the a-hole for blowing up and making it harder for my dad to win my mom back? Edit. I'm editing to add that the reason I am so involved is because both my parents talk about the other to me. My dad started it first, and my mom only got involved when I asked her if she was mistreating him in the way he was claiming. But they both are wrong for this. Other important info, my dad told me my whole life that he has bipolar disorder, and that is why he was so messed up. I've sent him books and podcasts and articles and lectures for years about his disorder. I made my entire family start therapy 2 years ago. And I said that my only request for dad is that he get medicated because he knows he has bipolar disorder. He just laughed and said, I was waiting for you to say that. I'm not even bipolar. The therapist then got a little curt with me and said I shouldn't armchair diagnose just because I was a psych major. And my dad just nodded along. This is just one of his serious manipulations, but he does it to me often, and that's why our relationship is fractured. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It was wildly inappropriate for your dad to request her help getting back together with your mom. Their marriage is their business, not yours. It's wildly inappropriate for the mom to talk to her about how bad of a husband the father is though too, and they seem to have been doing that for a long time. The whole situation must be so frustrating for you. I would stay out of it, OP. Have your relationship with your mom and a separate one with your dad, both to whatever extent you do so choose. Both of your parents are using you as a mediator, and that is not fair at all. Having a healthy relationship with a parent and talking about each other's relationship is doable, but that's not what is happening. So set boundaries. If one of them starts talking about the other, cut it off. You already said they were both wrong for doing this, so you already know. They can vent to their friends or another peer. You're an adult, but you're still their child. Agreed. You're both totally right. Each parent is putting OP in the middle, and it's not okay. They need to figure their situation out on their own, not by dragging their adult daughter into it. Not a-hole. Your dad was trying to manipulate you and your mom, and you did the right thing calling him out. You didn't ruin his chances to do anything. He's been doing that for years, and just wants a scapegoat to blame his actions on. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my girlfriend to cover up to spare my friend's feelings? I, 30 male, have a friend who invited me, my girlfriend, and a bunch of our other friends over to his house for a pool party/barbecue. One of the people attending was a good friend of mine named Christine, 37 female, who had given birth a few months ago. Christine had a hard pregnancy and developed postpartum depression, so she was looking forward to the occasion to help lighten her mood. Now, my girlfriend Alex, 26 female, is a model/influencer, and as you can imagine, she's very beautiful. This is important. Everyone at a party is wearing some form of swimming gear. All of the guys are wearing trunks and tank tops or Hawaiian shirts, and the women are wearing bikinis or swimsuits. Alex stole the show, however. She didn't wear anything too revealing or inappropriate, but it did turn heads. While Alex was swimming, I was talking with some of my other friends when another friend of mine, Jane, pulled me to the side. She asked if Alex could cover up a little bit because Christine was getting upset by her appearance. I asked how, and apparently Christine's PPD has manifested itself into bad case of body dysmorphia. She said Alex is making her jealous and triggering her dysmorphia. I was confused, but I said okay. Talked to Alex and she said that while she understood, she didn't understand why she had to cover up for the sake of someone else's feelings. Needless to say, she didn't do it, and Christine ended up leaving early 2 hours later. Jane came up to me and said Christine left because she couldn't stop crying. She also said that me and Alex are a-holes for not being accommodating to Christine's feelings. Now, while I understand PPD is a sensitive issue and that Christine is dealing with a lot, I don't understand how we're a-holes here. So I'll leave it to you, Reddit. Are we the a-holes? Now for the comments. Not a-hole. PPD sucks, and I have severe body dysmorphia, but I will never expect someone cover up for my feelings. Christine needs therapy. Having had PPD and body dysmorphia, I sympathize, but I just avoided situations like this prior to therapy, and now have had enough therapy to deal. My mental health issues aren't my fault, but they're my responsibility. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I'm a mom who has given birth twice, once to a singleton and once to twins. It didn't matter what your girlfriend wore, Christine was going to get upset with someone. It wasn't your girlfriend, it was the environment. Christine wasn't ready. As long as your girlfriend didn't go out of her way and have the intention of upsetting Christine, there's no a-hole in the story. Christine is going to have to get comfortable with her new body and can be tough. That's some inner work she has to do. It's no one else's responsibility. It's a pool party. Christine wasn't ready. That isn't anyone else's fault. Maybe just do brunch next time instead. Also, when you don't have control over something that has to do with ourselves, we often unknowingly try to assert that control elsewhere. Christine likely feels like she doesn't have control over her own body, so she tried to assert that control over your girlfriend. It probably wasn't malicious or thought of, but something to keep in mind. I wouldn't tell Christine that though, lol. Not a-hole. You asked Alex and she elected not to cover up. Furthermore, if this were an issue where someone was uncomfortable because they found the appearance of someone else's bodies very unappealing, then asking them to cover up would be out of the question. Someone shouldn't have to cover up because they look too good. Excellent point. Also, it's a pool party. people aren't generally going to cover up unless they are super pale like I am and need to protect their skin. The only time policing someone else's body is understandable is if they visit holy religious sites. Last story. Am I the a-hole for donating a bunch of hand-me-downs my sister-in-law gave us instead of letting my kids wear them? My sister-in-law has kids who are a few years older than mine, and she was kind enough to keep some of their clothes aside to hand down. We've graciously taken a lot of the clothing over the years. Some of them end up as rags, some of them have been donated, etc. Well, this past month she handed off a bag of clothes for the summer. I sorted through the clothes, but there were unfortunately some clothes that I don't really encourage my kids to wear. To be clear, the thing that I don't encourage is clothes advertising something, a brand, media, etc. My kids understand this, and know that rule is that I am not going to buy them any of that crap. But if they want to use their own money just so they can parade around advertising someone's brand for them, I don't stop them. And yes, me and their father model this behavior as well. My husband donates his company-branded fleeces as long as he gets them. Anyway, when my sister-in-law saw the donation pile had a bunch of her offerings, she got mad. She told me that it's a direct insult to her and her generosity. I told her that the clothes will still get used by someone, and she told me I was being draconian and snobby, and that my kids are afraid to express who they are inside. I admit that when she said this, I did laugh, because my son is one of those kids who goes to school with nail polish and does things like slam poetry and chalk drawing clubs. Well, that's the issue. Am I the a-hole for donating some of the clothes for my sister-in-law all these years? Oh, just to be clear, for clothing donations, we actually donate directly to a church in our neighborhood who does clothing drives. I think that's worth noting, because places like Goodwill and the Ark have been marking up prices due to thrift resellers. You're the a-hole. You do sound quite snobby, and you describe accepting the clothes graciously than using them as rags, which is not gracious at all. OP, when accepting the clothes, the first thing you should ask if, after I go through this, what do you want me to do with the items we don't need? Return to you or donate? That way, it's crystal clear what your intent is, and sister-in-law can have the clothes put to use the way she desires, which may involve skipping over you entirely. I give hand-me-downs to my sister for her kids all the time, and I preface it by letting her know to pick what she wants and donate the rest so she doesn't feel obligated to keep items she doesn't want/need. You're the a-hole. Why take clothes if you're just going to give them away? Why not just say, thank you for the clothes, but I think these should go to someone else? Also, your reason for your kids not wearing them makes absolutely no sense to me, since every article of clothing has some brand on it, lol. Also, why force your kids to not wear them when neither you or them are paying for them? They should get to choose to wear them or not. Looking at the clothes I'm wearing right now, and not a single item has a visible brand name anywhere. You're the a-hole. Stop using your kids to express your political/worldviews. Their aunt was generous, and they probably would have enjoyed the clothes. Not only was it ungracious and rude to sister-in-law, but it's excessively punitive to your own kids to enforce this policy even on items you haven't purchased. Especially since OP claims the kids can buy name-brand clothes with their own money. They can do that, but can't accept free gift clothes from a loving aunt?